For today's review, we are looking at the fourth and final figure in the Aquaman Page Puncher wave, and that of course is Aquaman's half-brother, Ocean Master. And before I talk about the accessories and the figure, let's take a quick look at the data profile card. And as you can see, there is this beautiful comic book artwork of Ocean Master. Pretty cool illustration. On the backside, you do have your usual read-up for who the character is. His real name is Orm Marius. It reads, Orm is eternally jealous of his half-brother, known on the surface world as Aquaman, and has dedicated his life to not only taking his throne away from him, and thereby taking it for himself, but also destroying everything and everyone that he holds dear. Although they are related by blood, Orm has none of Aquaman's nobility or charity, and only exhibits ruthlessness and sadism. I think that's how you pronounce that last word. But yeah, that's a pretty good read-up on who Ocean Master is as a character. I do like that description, ruthlessness. And that is the data profile card. And I dropped the card. Alright, let's move on to the accessories that are included with this figure. Let's start with the interchangeable hands that he comes with. Because compared to Aquaman, he actually has two pairs of interchangeable hands that were included, which is nice. So, as you can see on the figure, he does have two item holding hands for both arms, so you can have him hold his trident with either hand or both hands if you want to. He also comes with two of these open gesture hands, as I like to call them, or the classic evil villain hand gesture. So yeah, pretty cool that he comes with these. And of course, he has his trident. So I really like how the trident accessory is sculpted, just like what they did with the trident for Aquaman. They did a really good job with this one as well in terms of the sculpt details. And also it captures the vibe that this character gives off, right? Like, he's not someone who's going to be your friend. He's going to backstab you. That's what he does, right? To his brother. So when you look at like the design of his trident, it matches the personality of who's using it. So when you see how there's like these chains or whatever these are supposed to be, right, and all these ridges to make it look like a sharp and brutal weapon, and even the bottom part here, this is like a spear-like ending point which he can use to end his enemy if he's like getting hit from behind. So yeah, this is not the same as what you see on Aquaman's trident, which we are going to bring in for comparisons. And overall, I think in terms of sculpt detail for these two tridents from this wave, they did a phenomenal sculpting job with them, because they're more detailed than the previous ones we've seen, especially like for both of their tridents, because you have the Endless Winter version, and then you have his first version that we got as a Target exclusive Gold Label, and I will bring that trident in as well so you can see the differences. But yeah, just look at this. It is completely different. This is like a blunt ending, as I'm trying to speak, compared to a spear-like ending. So yeah, there's like this sort of like, this is evil and this is good, or something, like to uphold justice, to be merciful. So there's some sort of like, difference between these two tridents, and I like that they represent different things. So there is the comparison with the one that came with Aquaman, and here is the comparison with the one that came with the Target exclusive Ocean Master. So this was the first Ocean Master figure we got before this Page Puncher one, and as you can see, his trident is more simplistic in terms of the sculpt. So just like this one, there is of course the fork sort of shape, but then when you go to the bottom, they do have this similar sort of spear pointy end part. So I do like that there are some parts carried over, but overall, when it comes to sculpt detail, this version is still more superior over this one. So I do prefer this in terms of the sculpt details and everything. It's just a really good looking trident for Ocean Master, and that is the accessory for him in terms of his weapon. And of course, since this is a page puncher, he does come with a comic book, which features of course the same illustration that we saw on the data profile card. And yeah, it's a pretty cool artwork. I do like this. Of course, the inside of the comic book is the same thing, so there's no difference there. And that is pretty much all you get in this box for this figure, which still is not a whole lot of accessories, but it is what it is with Mcfarlane toys, as usual. Okay, let's talk about the aesthetics of this figure. And this one goes back to the pretty much root of this entire wave, where it's very heavily focused on the details and texture work of the character designs. So of course, when we looked at Aqualad, his design was very simplistic, right? He didn't have the same sort of crazy sort of texture designs that we saw with Aquaman and of course Black Manta. But Ocean Master here does go back to this sort of design work that is present in this wave. So I do like the fact that we do see a lot of that. However, when it comes to the paint details though, it would have been nice if, you know, these parts right here were painted a little bit better. So for example, if they did a similar sort of paint job to what you see on Aquaman with these bronze area right here, right? For these gold parts, it would make for a really good color and it would make it stand out a lot more. So there is a downside to, you know, the paint job with this guy when it comes to these gold armor parts, which is quite unfortunate. But of course, if you do know how to customize your action figures, you can probably easily do something to make this stand out more using some sort of metallic gold marker or something, right? So there's that. In terms of the texturing in his suit that he's wearing, I like that it's different from, you know, these parts on his arm, right? You can see these sort of texture here. And then when you go down to his pants, it's a different sort of texture that's down here. And then for his boots or whatever he's wearing, you do have that sort of detail as well that captures, like, you know, the ocean sort of vibe, right? Because they live in Atlantis. So I do like that. And of course, his chest area right here, he does have his sort of emblem, whatever that is supposed to signify. So I really like how that's sculpted and is not just printed on. And that does bring out the details. And now onto his head sculpt. That is a really good head sculpt for Ocean Master. Like, I don't know how else, you know, to express how good this looks, because I mean that's pretty much what the character looks like all the time, right? He wears like this helmeted mask. Now of course sometimes we do see his face, right? But not all the time. Most of the time he wears something like this to make it look like he's evil. And this is the right time for me to bring in the other Ocean Masters so you can get a sense of how different they look in terms of their head sculpts, but they do retain similar sorts of features. So as you can see, he does have the red eyes, and he does have his mouth exposed. He's wearing some sort of helmet that's also like an armored sort of thing to protect his head. And when you look at the two figures side by side, you can see how different the details are between the two of them. Like, this one's very simplistic in the design. It does have, of course, that armor part you can see for the belt, so there is a similarity there. You also have his gauntlets, which is another thing, his cape. This one has the shoulder armor, this one does not. But overall, between these two versions, I like them both, right? Like, they both fit in a certain shelf, in my opinion. But if you had to pick and choose which would be your main Ocean Master that you want on your shelf, let me know in the comments below, like, which version you would put on your shelf. Because for me, I'm leaning towards this one because he just looks cooler. This one is just very simple looking. And I usually like figures with, like, really good texturing details. And this version just does it for me. So there's that. And of course, let's look at his cape. He does have some sort of cape fabric thing that he's wearing. Of course, this is not cloth material because this was before they started using those wired cloth capes. Imagine if he had one, right? But the sculpt work for the cape is pretty cool. It's the same color on the inside as well. And that is pretty much most of the aesthetics for this figure. He's very nicely textured and the sculpt work is just good. I don't know what else to say about this wave. Like, there's something about these page punchers that are just fun collecting, right? Especially the ones that they made in this sort of original redesign, whatever you want to call this. I loved every single figure that they released. Now, are they perfect? Of course not. But in terms of the dedication to making them look stand out-ish on the shelf, they really did nail that with a couple of these waves. So yeah, and that's pretty much going to do for the aesthetics of Ocean Master here. There's not really much else I'm noticing that we can talk about. Okay, And now let's move on to the articulation. Let's start with his head sculpt. He can look up, not exactly the best. So just like two of the other figures in this wave, for some reason, they have trouble with the neck joint looking up. But as you can see, he does run into the back part of his neck. He can look down, kinda. He can turn his head left and right. He can tilt his head side to side. So the articulation for the head sculpt is all right. For his arms, he can lift them out this much, but of course he will run into the shoulder armor right here, which is part of the shoulder piece up there. He can swing them out like that. He can swing them back like this. If you want him to swing them back all the way, he can, but you're going to have to do something like this, which is not good. So there's that. He does have bicep swivel for the arms. He does have double jointed for the arms. He has his swivel here for the hands, and of course wrist articulation, as you can see. So standard articulation for the arms as usual. When it comes to his torso, he does have a good range of motion right here, which is really good to see, and it's not stiff. Leaning forward, not the best. Leaning backwards, yeah, you can get him to lean back pretty far, which is cool, but you can see how there's like a giant gap right there. As for his waist rotation down here, it does not want to move on my copy. It is like really stiff for some reason. And I've heated it up before, but I guess it's like reset it back to how it was. So yeah, but it should move if you heat it up, if you have this figure, if you are having trouble moving the waist articulation. So there's that. For his legs, now this part right here, the little side skirt armor pieces, they will hinder the articulation with his legs spreading out like, you know, like this, right? And you don't want to put too much force when you like move his legs in this direction, because this could probably break, you know? It's not glued into anything, but you still want to be careful. So that's as far as his legs are going to allow him to split. In terms of kicking, not the greatest, as you can see, because something up here is hindering him from kicking upward even higher. But if you kind of just move it a lot, so yeah, that's as far as it goes. In terms of the bottom part of his legs, he can double joint. Let me see which one works, because this leg is tight. So as you can see, he can double joint right there. And he does have articulation in the feet, swivel, and toe articulation. And in terms of the upper thigh swivels, they do work on this figure. That is actually surprising. So they do move a little bit. And that is pretty much all the articulation on this Ocean Master. And now it's time we do some comparisons. But before we do that, let me put the Triton in his hands to the best of my abilities. I haven't done this in a while. And there we go. Okay. It's in his hand. And look at that. Like, that is a really cool looking Triton that fits with the design of this Ocean Master. And I really like what they did with this figure. Like, the overall sculpt work of the figure with his accessory, really freaking cool, right? And if you want to have him have one of those other hand gestures, all you just do is just pop off one of these hands and just put this one on. Let me just do this really quickly. I don't need to show this because you already know how to swap hands if you do collect these figures. So there you go. So now you can have him with this sort of hand gesture, like he's, you know, doing something or giving a speech, right? Like he's pretty much telling everybody, don't serve Aquaman because he's a false king and all that stuff, right? So I recently watched the Throne of Atlantis movie. I forgot the name of it, the New 52 continuity of the Aquaman comic book that they turned into a movie. And also the Lego version. It's like a similar thing. It's so funny how the plot is the same. It's like literally Ocean Master always plotting to overthrow his brother. Like, it's just, it is a funny thing to see. Okay, so there he is with his weapons. Let me bring in the other version of Ocean Master. So this was the one that came out a long time ago that was a Target exclusive, and the whole reason for this release was, you know, we had the Endless Winter Aquaman. So as you can see with the design of this version of Ocean Master, it's very much reusing a lot of the same parts from that Endless Winter Aquaman, so you can have them paired with him. and it works. Now, in terms of the two here that are, different in terms of sculpt, again, I like both of them, but of course, when it comes to which one I would prefer to be my main Ocean Master, it still will go to this one here because they just did a better job with this one. But yeah, it's crazy how we only have 2 Ocean Masters. And also, we never got a live-action Ocean Master from the Aquaman movie either, so that's kind of sad. I mean, yeah, he's not wearing a mask, okay, in the second movie, but I mean, they could have still made, his character into, what was the actor's name? Patrick Wilson? I don't remember his name, but the guy that plays not Aquaman, the guy that plays Ocean Master in that movie. So I'm surprised we don't have a live action version of this character, but it is what it is. Here he is next to his brother. Let me just get him to hold his trident really quickly. Oh, his hand popped off. That's not good. Okay, here we go. So here he is next to his brother, and oh no, don't fall. I have to put him on a stand because this figure does not want to stand at all for some reason. So there you have it, the two of them together. And yeah, they look really good next to each other, like they're from the same source material. And I really like what they did with both of these figures in terms of the sculpt details. So there he is with Aquaman. Here he is next to Aqualad. I don't know if Aqualad's ever fought Ocean Master. Maybe he has. I'm not too sure, but there are the two characters together. And of course, someone that Ocean Master has conspired with before in the past, because they're both villains. We got him next to Black Manta. And yeah, that's pretty much the comparisons. And I'm going to leave them there because now let's bring in all of the figures from this wave and just have them in frame if I can fit them here. Just put them there. And let's put them right over here. And yeah, look at that. All 4 figures from this Aquaman Page Puncher wave. It has been a really cool wave to look at. All these figures, in my opinion, were pretty fun to, collect. And I've been wanting to talk about this wave for a while now. So I hope you enjoyed these last 3 videos, including this one, with looking at this entire wave. I honestly think that this is a good example of when Mcfarlane Toys actually does something good, right? We always complain about how there's too much Batmans, but when they don't do Batman stuff and they actually set their sights to do something different and do it good, this is what it is. This is what you get. And I think this is what reminds me why I like the DC license under Mcfarlane Toys. But sadly, because of all the other, stuff that he does with this line that isn't also good, yeah, this is why we're in, the state that we're in now with this line. So that's going to wrap it up for today's review. And before I end it off, let me just show all 4 of the comic book covers really quickly so you can get a sense of this. Actually, 5 if you want to include this line art version of Black Manta. So, yeah, so you got that one in the background, and then you have, Aquaman here, and then here's the Ocean Master again. There's Aqualad, and there's Black Manta. So yeah, all 5 of the comic covers right there. And that will do for today's review. If you found today's review for this Ocean Master figure informative, do give this video a like. If you want to subscribe to the channel for more action figure content and whatever else I do on here, it would be much appreciated. And with that said, take care, and I will see you in the next video.